This is an emu egg. The emu egg is green, flightless, and it doesn't pay taxes. It also fits great in my hand, and these are the reasons I decided to make a mouse out of it. To obtain my eggs, I had to walk like an emu, eat like an emu, drink like an emu, and also sleep like an emu. Once I tricked my body into believing I am an emu, I just had to squat and give it one final big push on the purchase button. So now I only had to wait for the mail person to safely deliver my eggs. Once they arrived, I carefully picked them up and opened the box. Now I really have to admit that this is the most impressive pair of eggs I have ever put my hands on. To obtain my mouse, I only needed a mouse trap, some clickbait and some patience. With the mouse caught, it was time to surgically remove the inner parts of the mouse. Lucky for me, I'm not afraid of blood, so this should make things a lot easier. With the mouse fully dismantled, it was time to focus on the egg again. To determine the right ergonomics, I just placed planks behind the egg until I had the right fit. After I made sure that everything felt good, I also checked if the little mouse would still fit the egg. Then I used some tape to define the cutting line and I started grinding like a madman with an awful lot of self-control. Now that I had the egg split in two pieces, it was time to remove the insane membrane of the shell. Not removing this part would result in something that smells worse than the pants of my grandfather. With a bit of sandpaper on the tabletop, I refined the cutting line. Since exposure to X-rated content didn't harden the eggshell, I decided to use some 2K epoxy glue. And with a wooden spoon, I smeared it all over the place. Now that the glue was all set, I could start with the buttons of the mouse. I only cut out the back part of the buttons so I could easily mount the spring mechanism afterwards. For the springs, I used a bit of steel. I did some bending like a pro. Some filing like an amateur, to come up with these two beauties. I was planning to install them like this, but first I had to prepare some glue. With the springs installed, I could move on and prepare the mold for the scrolling wheel. The idea is to make an eggshell version of this one too. First I copied the dimensions of the current wheel, and then I got rid of the material that I will replace with a bit of Emu. Now I could drizzle in a little bit of epoxy and fill the mold with the cracked up eggshells. For the USB stick, I prepared the exact same kind of mold, with a bit of an artistic touch. After the block was created, I drilled out a cavity unlike anything you've ever witnessed, and I installed the USB with some more epoxy. In the meantime, my scroll wheel was hardened out as well, and ready to be pushed out like an overly ripe sit. I increased the size of the wheel on purpose, so now I needed to adapt the mouse for a good fit. The reason why I made it bigger is, well, that's actually top secret. But I can tell you this, it had something to do with my ego. To further finalize the eggshell, I had to open up the rest of the buttons and the scroll wheel. This part made me quite nervous as so many things could go wrong. But I knew if I would just remember my dentist training, everything would turn out just fine. The only issue I had is that I never had any dentist training. About 4 panic attacks later, I managed to fully separate the keys from the main housing. After fitting the mouse in the eggshell, I did notice that I had to cut away some of the mouse material for the keys to fit. So I marked the area that I had to remove and I started cutting. And cutting. And cutting a little bit more. Until I ended up with these 2 small pieces for the keys. For the assemblage, I decided to work with sucru, a Japanese type of super snot that is sold in small packages. As for the sucru, I went for one in the pink and one in the brown color range, just because I can. I molded the pink sucru into a small conical shape that looked like something small and conical, and I pushed it into the opening of the mouse for a strong bond. Then I carefully attached the eggshell and let it set overnight. In the meantime, I could work on the parking spot for the USB. I taped off the front end. I prepared a brown ball of sucru and pushed it in the rear end of the mouse. Then I pushed in the USB to copy the shape of my USB, and the USB parking space was done. To connect the buttons of the eggshell with the buttons of the mouse, I had to modify the 2 pieces of plastic that were left over from the endless grinding and cutting adventure I had before. Once these pieces were cut to size, I could finalize the assembly and write a letter of success to the people of my village. Now, before I could try out my wonderful creation, I decided to protect the eggshell against the horrific chemicals from my hands with a layer of clear coat. Once the clear coat was fully dried, it was time to give it a test. I popped the USB in the right slot and gave it a go. I have to say, I was so pleased with the end result that I got kind of emotional. If you have more emu puns you would like to share with us, please let us know in the comments and I will catch you in the next one.